Welcome to Moments in History channel. Have you ever wondered what it takes to build one of the largest empires in history in just over a decade? It takes a visionary, a military genius, and a leader who could inspire armies to march to the ends of the known world. Today, we're diving into the incredible story of Alexander the Great and the Hellenistic Empire he forged. This isn't just a tale of battles and conquests. It's the story of how one man's ambition reshaped civilization and created a new world. Let's set the stage. The year is 336 BCE. In the kingdom of Macedonia, a 20-year-old prince named Alexander ascends to the throne after the assassination of his father, King Philip II. Philip was a brilliant military reformer himself. He had unified the fiercely independent Greek city-states under Macedonian leadership, creating a powerful, disciplined army. But his grand plan, a massive invasion of the mighty Persian Empire, was left unfinished. This monumental task now fell to his young son. Many doubted Alexander. They saw a young, untested king, but Alexander wasted no time proving them wrong. He swiftly crushed rebellions in Greece, making a brutal example of the city of Thebes to ensure no one else would dare challenge his authority. With his Greek flank secured, he turned his gaze east towards the colossal Achaemenid Persian Empire, an empire that had dominated the region for over 2 centuries. In 334 BCE, Alexander crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor with an army of around 40,000 Macedonians and Greeks. This was more than an invasion, it was a crusade, framed as revenge for the Persian invasions of Greece a century and a half earlier. His first major test came at the Granicus River, where he faced a formidable Persian force. Instead of being cautious, Alexander led a daring cavalry charge directly across the river and up the bank, shattering the enemy lines. It was a stunning victory that showcased his personal bravery and unorthodox tactics. This victory opened the floodgates. Cities across Asia Minor began to surrender. But Alexander wasn't just conquering, he was liberating, at least in the eyes of the Greek cities along the coast. One of the most famous sieges of his campaign was at the island city of Tyre. The Tyrians thought they were safe, protected by the sea. Alexander's response was audacious. For 7 months, his engineers built a massive causeway, a land bridge right across the water to the city walls. It was an incredible feat of engineering and sheer willpower. When the causeway was complete, his siege towers rolled forward and Tyre fell. With the Mediterranean coast under his control, Alexander marched south into Egypt. Egyptians who resented Persian rule welcomed him as a liberator. They crowned him pharaoh and declared him a son of the god Amun. It was in Egypt that Alexander made one of his most lasting contributions. On the coast, he founded a new city, Alexandria. This wasn't just a military outpost, it was designed to be a hub of culture, trade, and learning. It was the first of many cities he would name after himself. But Alexandria in Egypt would become the most famous, a beacon of knowledge for centuries to come. But the heart of the Persian Empire still lay ahead. The Persian king, Darius III, had gathered a massive army to confront the Macedonian invader. The two forces met in 331 BCE at Gaugamela in modern-day Iraq. The Persian army vastly outnumbered Alexander's, with some ancient sources claiming they had as many as 1 million men, though modern estimates are much lower. On a wide, flat plain chosen by Darius, the stage was set for one of the most decisive battles in history. Alexander's strategy at Gaugamela was a masterpiece of military art. He advanced with his army in an oblique formation, drawing the Persian cavalry on the left flank out wide. This created a gap in the Persian center, right near Darius himself. Seeing his moment, Alexander led his elite companion cavalry in a wedge formation, charging directly at the gap. The charge was so ferocious that Darius, fearing for his life, fled the battlefield. His flight caused a panic that rippled through the Persian army, leading to its complete collapse. The battle was over. The Persian Empire was effectively broken. Alexander marched into Babylon and then to the Persian capitals of Susa and Persepolis. In Persepolis, the ceremonial heart of the empire, Alexander's troops burned the grand palace to the ground. Was it an act of revenge for the burning of Athens by the Persians a century earlier? A drunken mistake? Or a calculated political statement that the Persian dynasty was truly over? Historians still debate it, but the message was clear. A new power was in charge. With the Persian king on the run and his empire crumbling, you might think Alexander would stop, but he was relentless. He pursued Darius deep into the eastern provinces, only to find that the Persian king had been assassinated by one of his own governors. Now, Alexander wasn't just the conqueror of Persia, he was its rightful successor. He adopted Persian dress, court customs, and even married a Bactrian princess named Roxana. This was a controversial move. His Macedonian veterans, who had fought and bled to defeat the Persians, were uneasy seeing their king adopt the ways of the barbarians. But Alexander had a grander vision. He wasn't just building a Macedonian empire, he was creating a new blended culture. He envisioned a fusion of Greek and Persian civilizations, a concept we now call Hellenism. He encouraged his soldiers to marry local women, and he himself hosted a mass wedding ceremony where 10,000 of his troops married Persian brides. He recruited tens of thousands of young Persian men into his army, teaching them Macedonian tactics and the Greek language. His goal was to unite his vast, diverse empire, not just by force, but through shared culture and mutual respect. His journey didn't end in Persia. Driven by an insatiable curiosity and a desire to reach the ends of the world, Alexander pushed his army further east, into what is now Afghanistan and Central Asia, and then across the Hindu Kush Mountains into the Indus Valley in modern-day Pakistan. Here, he faced some of his toughest battles against fierce local rulers and their war elephants, something his army had never seen before. At the Battle of the Hydaspes River, he defeated King Porus, but was so impressed by his adversary's courage that he allowed Porus to continue ruling as his subordinate. By now, his army had been marching and fighting for 8 years. They were thousands of miles from home, exhausted and weary. When Alexander announced his intention to march further into India to the Ganges River, his men finally reached their breaking point. They mutinied. Not violently, but with a stubborn refusal to go any further. A frustrated Alexander finally relented. They would turn back. The return journey was disastrous. Alexander split his forces, with one part sailing down the coast and the other, which he led, marching through the brutal Gedrosian desert. Thousands died from heat and thirst. It was a harrowing end to his eastern campaign. Finally, in 324 BCE, he returned to Babylon, the city he now intended to be the capital of his world empire. He began making grand plans for the future, a circumnavigation of Arabia, new cities, new roads, and the further integration of his Greek and Persian subjects. But these plans would never be realized. In June of 323 BCE, after a prolonged bout of fever, possibly from malaria, typhoid, or poison, Alexander the Great died. He was just 32 years old. His death left a massive power vacuum. When his generals asked him on his deathbed to whom he left his empire, he supposedly whispered, "To the strongest." Whether he said this or not, it's exactly what happened. His vast empire was too dependent on his singular genius to hold together. His leading generals, known as the Diadochi, or successors, immediately began fighting among themselves for control. Over the next few decades of brutal conflict, the empire fractured into several large Hellenistic kingdoms. Ptolemy took Egypt, establishing the Ptolemaic dynasty that would last for 300 years, ending with Cleopatra. Seleucus took control of the vast eastern territories, from Asia Minor to India, creating the Seleucid Empire. And Antigonus established a dynasty in Macedonia and Greece. Though Alexander's unified empire was short-lived, his legacy was profound and enduring. This new era, the Hellenistic Age, lasted for nearly 3 centuries. Greek became the common language of government, commerce, and education across the Middle East and the Mediterranean. Greek art, architecture, and philosophy spread, blending with local traditions to create new, vibrant, hybrid cultures. The cities Alexander founded, especially Alexandria in Egypt, became world-leading centers of innovation. The Library of Alexandria was the greatest repository of knowledge in the ancient world, and its scholars made groundbreaking advances. Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the Earth with remarkable accuracy. Euclid wrote his Elements, a textbook that defined geometry for 2,000 years. In science, medicine, and engineering, the Hellenistic world built directly upon Alexander's foundation. So, while Alexander the Great's empire shattered almost as quickly as it was built, his true impact wasn't just lines on a map. It was the creation of a new, interconnected world. He broke down the barriers between East and West, sparking a cultural exchange that shaped the course of Western civilization, the Roman Empire, and beyond. His life story remains one of history's most epic tales of ambition, genius, and the power of a single individual to change the world. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the ancient world, don't forget to like, subscribe to Moments in History channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We'll see you next time.